Hello people, it's Gavin here again from Hologram Productions. And welcome back for our second edition of Requests Corner. And in this video we're going to be focusing on the music of Willaris K. So I've decided to offer a breakdown of the most important elements of tracks: natural selection, 5 o'clock, Dour Nights and catchphrase. I would, however, like to take a moment to give myself a wee pat on the back because I've managed to reach an interesting milestone of my website, which is that I have achieved just over 1 million views. This happened a couple of days ago, and this is something that I definitely did not imagine was going to happen when I opened this channel back in the 8th of November 2021, and the subscribership is going up, and I'm very, very happy for every single person who watches every single video, even if they only watch it for a little bit. So thank you very much for everyone who's been doing that. I am also starting to put myself out there as a DJ under the artist Wukah. Anyone who has known me has known that I've been called Wukah for some time, and I have some music put out there, but I am becoming more embedded in the underground melodic techno progressive house scene in order to get myself some gigs. I've got a gig coming up on August the 10th. Basically, go onto my Instagram, the link is in the description, and give me a follow so I can send you some really annoying stuff and updates about the gigs, what I will be doing. The channel does need your support because this is essentially my primary source of income and it keeps me going. And if you feel that you're getting something out of this content but you want to get a hell of a lot more, then you need to contact me on the email that you see going across your screen right now if you want some one-on-one assistance or a personal tutorial or a mixdown or a mastering job. I guarantee you that you will be happy with what it is that I have to provide. My website, you can follow this following link, which will lead you to where you can buy all the MIDI packs for all of the projects that I'm doing, including the MIDI packs for this particular video right now. And if you don't trust me, you can go and take a look at my testimonials where you can see a bunch of people what have said some nice things about the stuff, what I do. But anyway, enough preamble, let's actually get into breaking down the tracks of Willaris K. Let's start with the track Natural Selection. There's a couple of things to break down. There's the interesting lead sound, which you can hear at this section here. There's also the drums, there's also the bass, and there's also an interesting breakdown. We get some beautiful piano. First thing to look at would be the sub bass, which goes from G sharp to C. And the sub is very simple. I just wanted to create an FM style sub by using 2 oscillators on wavetable, and the first one has about 16% of FM, which is going to give it some harmonic resonance. On the utility to make sure that the bass is a mono, but it is anyway. The glue actually ended up not doing very much. I used this to sidechain the sound to the kick. Threw on another glue, but then again not doing much because this is entirely in mono anyway. But as you can see, the FM doesn't just create a sub, it also creates some harmonic resonance, so therefore this sub comes out on cheap speakers. And as well as that, you also have the reece bass. Now I've showed in many different videos how I do reece basses, but I think the most important thing is that you need to cut off at about here. I could probably cut off around here as well, because there's no need to have any frequency coming below that because that is represented within the bass sub. So therefore you've got a nice low end relationship. So that's the bass. The kick I got from a Vengeance pack. I liked it because it had this really cool sub arc to it, but I decided to boost the sub, and I also transposed it down. It was originally like this, sounded better like this, and I took the highs out of it just to make it deeper. The snare has a few different layers. Layer number 1, I just stole a little click from a track called Maria's Piano from Philippe Gordon. I quite like to get creative with my sampling. I get fed up with just finding generic samples. I like to layer them with just random sounds from random tracks. Then there's this, which just has a tiny little bit of high end to it, but the main smack is coming from this track here. Again, it's just a house track which I found, and I cut off the lows and I stretched the sound. And there's some saturation on it, which is basically clipping the sound. And then I run it into the limiter and then boost up the volume. And this is going to be sidechain to the kick, although the sidechain isn't activated, so together. So it's basically punchy and it smacks hard. I don't usually use this technique, but for some reason I decided to use it this time, which is I took a shaker, again it's from a Vengeance pack, and I dragged it into the simpler so that you could play it, and you could turn the reverb up on it, turn the reverb down on it, turn the frequency up and down on it. I don't often do that, but I decided to do it this time, and I'm running it through a hybrid reverb. And again, putting heavy saturation on it. I kind of get the feeling that a lot of Willaris K stuff has very high, heavy saturation, but you got to use the EQ to remove the sharpness. Speaking of grittiness, I wanted to add some real grittiness to the texture of the drums, and the way I did it is I found this preset called All Processors from Diva, which is absolutely insane. What I did was I re-recorded this into audio. And I quantized it, and then I went to beats, transients, left to right, and I preserved the transients. And I cut off the lows. So therefore that in conjunction with the drums, you get this nice grit on top. And as well as that, I created a breakbeat by simply doing a field recording of me playing around with some random instruments in my school. This is just me banging around. I quantized them. I preserved the transients, I transposed it up, and then ran it through some audio effects. And this is going to constantly evolve and change. So that was the bass. Okay, really big and really gritty. The lead sound is a straightforward saw pluck where you've got two sawtooths and then one is detuned by a couple of cents. And I've shown before in a number of different videos how I created a saw pluck by going to envelope 2 and then turning this up to 86, well, 100, either way. And then it's going to follow this arc. Unison, noise unison. That's the thing which gives it a lot of grit and width. Bit of delay. Broken pedal, which grits it up even further. Large hostile bedroom. And rolling off the lows. And have macros here set up to play around with the delay, the reverb. And play around with the frequency. Maybe with the decay. Basically, you can have a lot of fun with that. Together they sound like this. Now for the breakdown, there's a really, really beautiful piano solo. If you haven't heard of Spitfire Audio Labs, then you need to type in Labs Spitfire Audio Free into Google, because all of these instruments are free, and I'm using soft piano with the reverb turned up. I put a bit of drum bus on it, a bit of EQ, and a hybrid reverb where I have shimmer pitched down 12 semitones in order to increase the depth of the sound. And it sounds beautiful. I took the same MIDI and I also applied it to another Labs pack, which is called Frozen Strings. Again, this stuff is all free. Running through delay, reverb. As you can see, I never actually completed the arrangement with this particular job, but there's plenty of different sounds for you to play around with. Next, let's do 5 o'clock. Some lovely ethereal piano. Long build up. Strings. A triplet lead. Heavy bass. And a breakbeat. The bass sounds like this. Again, it's just the reece bass, which I've made in many of my videos. I copied and pasted this from my Luttrell video. And you go way down into the deep sub. Lots of glue compression on this, lots of saturation, which will really grit it up. Again, I just use wavetable. All of the drums together sound like this. Nothing too complicated. I just put in a break beat with the same kick as the previous track. One slightly deeper than the other. A double snare. 2 different lines. The key is I'm running it through bass guitar. I forget what that's called. But basically I put a pedal on it in order to grit it up, and I put a hybrid reverb, but I rolled off the lows. And again, making sure that most of the highs are cut off. And then this is a shaker. I think it was originally down here, like this. Then I transposed it up and I ran it through E piano soloist, which is the thing which grits it up. And then this is a break, which I think comes with Ableton. And then I ran it through heavy glue and reverb and delay. And I rolled off the lows and also rolled off the highs, so altogether the drums sound like this. One interesting detail, which I started the track off with, because I believe that the original track starts with this, is I created myself like a Foley triple instrument, where I've got some Foley on this line. I've also got some Foley here, which is of me playing with some instruments, and some other leaf crushing here, so you can play and you can turn up the volume of the wooden drums, turn that down, turn up the volume of the leaves, turn up the volume of the crunch, and you could live perform your Foley. It's pretty cool. The strings are Frozen Strings violin from Labs, running through delay, reverb. These strings are really nice, because they sound very moody. So I was just playing around in the chord of key of C minor. Sounds almost like Oliver Arnold's. I improvised these notes, but this sounds really nice atmosphere. Again, Labs piano. Playing around between G and C. Unquantized. Cutting off the highs, running through delay, and cutting off the lows. One other thing worth mentioning is that in order to make your piano sound more atmospheric, it's pretty cool to re-record it and then stretch it and then transpose it down an octave. Here's how I did it. Here is the chord grouping. So I recorded that into audio over here. Actually, I think I used a different instrument to this, but it's a very similar sounding instrument. And then in this, I transposed it down and I stretched it out like this. That with this hybrid reverb, again with the pitch 12 down. Makes it really, really nice and atmospheric. Again, wavetable, the same 2 sawtooths, 1 detuned, noise unison. Sounds like that without noise unison with it. Nice and gritty, and I can play around with the filter frequency. And then running through the following plugins, all Ableton stock, bass guitar. Then large hostile bedroom. Using glue. Just in case I need to stick it down, sidechaining it to the kick and rolling off the lows. This is the same instrument, except I used an auto pan. So it's full of atmosphere. Now let's move on to dour or dour nights. So you can hear his music is full of melody and emotion. But then a lot of grit. Now the main things I want you to take from this one would be the lead sounds. Now again, I composed the piano chords and I used labs. And I ran it through hybrid reverb. This time I had the shimmer set all the way to up 1 octave. And you can hear that shimmer sound. Now to create the lead that you hear at the very beginning, I used a preset called MK Strings, short by Diva. I re-recorded it. I stretched it. Transpose it down. Hybrid reverb. Compression. Delay. The auto pan is doing nothing and running off the lows. See, it sounds so much more alive. I'll be honest with you, I didn't spend too much time on the drums on this one. I just found a kick called Australian Kick. I created another layered snare from 4 different layers, because whenever I'm looking for something unique, I tend to just throw on sounds from random tracks. And then a real clap from Vengeance Pack. And these hats are jazz ride hats. along with the shaker sample, where I play around with the attack and decay so it sounds alive. I think I initially put it the reverb. And the bass, same as before. Except this time this one actually growls, because this is the one I made for the Yotto video. Go back to my Yotto video to figure out how I made this one up. It's got a nice wham arc to it. Willaris K's music has constant movement, and that should encourage you to do the same. Final one will be the track Catchphrase. With that really ominous lead at the beginning.
Tuesday. You know, Mr. Atwell.
So here's how this made. Again, a sawtooth, a second sawtooth, detuned. Create the following arc. Running it through very, very heavy shimmer. Glue it down. Saturate. Reverb. Drum patina. Basically just a lot of Willaris K sounds are run through amps. That's why they sound gritty. And you turn the peak down. And again, Yotto's bass. That's basically it. It's basically just a bunch of jumbled ideas. There's no complete track here, but I'm hoping that you learned a few things from those individual sounds. Let me just leave you with one break-in build which I constructed for natural selection, which sounds really cool. Okay, basically a taster. Like I said, if you would like to have one-on-one lessons one more time, there's the email. Contact me as soon as you have time or cash. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.